9 p.m., Voss Tech Building parking garage in downtown Chicago. Elena Rodriguez stood cornered between two luxury cars, her white business suit a stark contrast against the concrete shadows. Two men blocked her only escape route, their faces hard with the kind of confidence that money and power breeds. "You can't just walk away from this contract, Miss Rodriguez." David Webb's voice carried the weight of military command, even in civilian clothes. His partner, Rick Thompson, stepped closer, forcing Elena back against a BMW. "We already have investors lined up for your AI surveillance technology." Elena kept her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I told you, I don't sign deals that compromise civil liberties. My company's facial recognition software will not be used to target minority communities." Webb laughed, a cold sound that echoed off the concrete walls. "Don't pretend to be noble. We know about your company's financial troubles. Sign, and your funding problems disappear." "Refuse." He stepped closer, his shadow falling across her face. "And you might not make it home tonight." That's when the elevator dinged. A man in Navy maintenance coveralls stepped out. Toolbox in hand, Connor Blake moved with the quiet efficiency of someone accustomed to being invisible in corporate spaces. At 34, his weathered hands and observant eyes suggested a past far more complex than building maintenance. "Excuse me," Connor said, his voice calm but carrying an edge that made both men turn. "I think the lady wants to leave." Webb sneered. "Walk away, janitor. This doesn't concern you." "Actually, it does." Connor's stance shifted slightly, weight balanced, hands relaxed but ready. "See, I've been watching this parking garage's security feeds for weeks, investigating some irregularities. And right now, there are cameras recording everything you're doing." Thompson's confidence wavered. "You're bluffing." Connor smiled, pulling out a tablet that showed multiple camera angles of their confrontation. "Building security hired me to upgrade their surveillance system. Funny thing about high-definition cameras, they pick up every detail, including license plates, faces, and conversations." Webb's face darkened. "You have no idea who you're dealing with." "Colonel David Webb, retired, currently on Voss Tech's board." Connor's voice carried a hint of recognition that made Webb freeze. "Trust me, I know exactly who you are." The tension crackled between them like electricity. Webb studied Connor's face, something flickering in his eyes. Recognition. Suspicion. He grabbed Thompson's arm. "We're leaving, but this isn't over." "Rodriguez?" As their footsteps echoed away, Elena finally breathed. Her hands trembled as she smoothed her suit jacket. "Thank you. I don't know what they would have done if you hadn't." "You don't need to thank me." Connor's voice was distant now. Professional. "Just doing my job." But Elena caught something in his expression, a flicker of pain when he'd said Webb's name. And his eyes, there was something familiar about them, something that reminded her of someone she'd lost long ago. "Have we met before?" she asked softly. Connor's jaw tightened almost imperceptibly. "No, ma'am, just someone who knows right from wrong." As he walked away, Elena watched him disappear into the shadows of the parking garage. She had no idea that Connor Blake had been watching her from afar for months, drawn by a promise he'd made to a dying soldier 5 years ago. A promise to protect the sister Marcus Rodriguez would never come home to see. Sometimes the guardian angels we need most are the ones carrying the heaviest burdens themselves. Connor Blake lived 2 lives. During daylight hours, he was the invisible maintenance worker who fixed broken lights and cleaned floors at Voss Tech. But in the shadows of Chicago's tech district, he was a ghost in the machine, a cybersecurity consultant tracking digital breadcrumbs that led to corporate espionage. The cyber attacks on Voss Tech weren't random. Someone with inside access was systematically stealing Elena Rodriguez's artificial intelligence research, the same technology Webb wanted to weaponize. Connor had spent 3 months tracing encrypted communications, following money transfers through shell companies, and mapping a conspiracy that reached into the highest levels of government contracting. Each night, he returned to his sparse Lincoln Park apartment, walls covered with photos, documents, and red string connecting names and dates. At the center, two faces watched him work. Marcus Rodriguez, his best friend and fellow soldier, and David Chen, the man Connor had planned to marry before a mission in Syria changed everything. The engagement ring sat on his desk, white gold catching the lamplight. 5 years, and he still couldn't bring himself to put it away. Some nights, he'd hold it and remember David's laugh, the way he'd proposed during a rare quiet moment between deployments. Marcus was supposed to be their best man. Instead, Connor carried the weight of surviving when neither of them had. Elena didn't know that Connor had been researching her family for months, learning about the brilliant CEO who'd built an ethical tech company in her dead brother's honor. She didn't know that every time Connor saw her working late through her office window, he remembered Marcus's stories about his little sister, who was going to change the world. Tuesday afternoon, the elevator at Vostek shuddered to a stop between floors. Elena and Connor found themselves trapped together, emergency lighting casting strange shadows in the small space. For 20 minutes, they sat on the floor, waiting for repairs. "You're not really maintenance," Elena said quietly. It wasn't a question. Connor's shoulders tensed. "Why would you say that? The way you handled those men last night, the way you know our security system better than our own IT department, and your hands," she gestured to his calloused fingers. "Those aren't from fixing lights." He was quiet for a long moment. "I used to be a technical specialist in the military. Special operations. Now I fix things and try to stay invisible. What happened? I lost people. Important people." His voice was barely above a whisper. "Sometimes staying invisible is the only way to keep going." Elena studied his profile in the dim light. "You lost someone in combat." Connor's throat worked as he swallowed hard. "A mission went wrong. My partner and my best friend didn't make it home. I did." The guilt in those 3 words could have filled oceans. When the elevator jerked back to life, something had shifted between them. Elena saw past the maintenance uniform to the man underneath, carrying ghosts and promises in equal measure. Connor saw Elena's strength, the same fierce determination Marcus had described in late-night conversations about family. Neither realized that the enemy watching them had already identified Connor, already begun planning moves that would force him to choose between the dead and the living, between honoring the past and protecting the future. Webb had recognized the face he had hoped never to see again, the one witness to crimes that could destroy him. Trust, once broken by loss, becomes the most precious thing we can offer another person. Elena found Connor in her office at midnight, surrounded by computer screens displaying code that looked like digital archaeology. She'd come back for files she'd forgotten, but the soft glow from her workspace drew her deeper into the building than she'd planned. "The cyber attacks," she said, making Connor jump. "You've been tracking them." His hand stilled over the keyboard. "You shouldn't be here. This is my company." Elena stepped closer, studying the complex web of data on his screens. "Those aren't maintenance programs. You're tracking financial transactions, encrypted communications. Who are you really?" Connor closed his eyes, the weight of deception heavy between them. "Connor Blake, freelance cybersecurity consultant. I've been investigating the attacks on your company for 3 months. Investigating for who? For myself." His voice carried a pain that made Elena's chest tighten. "Because someone I cared about once made me promise to watch out for his family." The words hit Elena like cold water. Her breath caught as connections formed, puzzle pieces clicking into place. What was his name? Marcus Rodriguez, Staff Sergeant, Phoenix Squadron. He died in Syria 5 years ago. Connor's voice broke on the words. "He saved my life twice, once in combat, once after. When I didn't want to keep living." Elena's knees gave out. She sank into her desk chair, staring at this man who held pieces of her brother she'd never known. "Marcus never told me about you. He talked about you constantly. His brilliant little sister, who was going to build technology that helped people instead of hurting them." Connor reached into his jacket and pulled out a small recording device. He left this for you. I've carried it for 5 years, not knowing how to find you. With shaking hands, Elena took the device. Marcus's voice filled the office, warm and alive in a way that made tears stream down her face. Hey sis, if you're hearing this, something went wrong with our mission. I need you to know that you were right about following your dreams instead of playing it safe. And there's someone I want you to meet someday. Connor Blake. He's the best man I know, and he's going to need friends when this is over. The recording continued, Marcus describing Connor's kindness, his intelligence, the way he'd protected younger soldiers and fixed communication equipment that kept everyone connected to home. But Elena barely heard the rest through her sobs. There's more, Connor said gently. Marcus wasn't the only one who didn't come home from that mission. Elena looked up through her tears. Who else? David Chen, my fiancé. The word came out like glass. We were going to get married when we got back. Marcus was supposed to be our best man. The pain in Connor's voice was raw, unfiltered. Elena understood now why he carried himself like a man walking through shadows, why he'd spent months watching her from a distance instead of introducing himself. What really happened on that mission? Elena asked. Connor's jaw tightened. We were betrayed. Someone in command fed us false intelligence, led us into a trap. Marcus and David died because someone wanted our unit eliminated. He looked directly at Elena, and she saw something dangerous in his eyes. I think I know who it was. Webb, Elena whispered. Colonel David Webb was our commanding officer. He knew our route, our timeline, everything. And now he's after your technology, the same surveillance systems that could be used to track and eliminate LGBTQ military personnel like David and me. Elena's hands clenched into fists. He killed my brother to cover up his own crimes. I can't prove it yet, but I'm close. Connor's voice carried a promise that was part determination, part vengeance. Webb thinks he's safe behind his board position and government connections. He doesn't know I survived, doesn't know I've been tracking his money trail for years. Elena stood, wiping her tears but leaving steel in her eyes. Then we finish this, together, for Marcus and David. Connor looked at her, seeing Marcus's fire in her expression, and nodded. The ghost he'd been carrying for 5 years had finally found its voice, and it was calling for justice. Sometimes the dead speak loudest through the living who refuse to let their memory fade quietly. The trap closed on a Wednesday morning when Elena arrived at Vostek to find FBI agents waiting in her lobby. Special Agent Sarah Martinez held up a badge and an expression that meant business had turned deadly serious. Elena Rodriguez, you're under arrest for conspiracy to commit treason, theft of classified technology, and violation of the Espionage Act. The handcuffs clicked around Elena's wrists like the sound of a life shattering. You have the right to remain silent. The next 72 hours became a blur of interrogation rooms, lawyers who seemed more interested in plea bargains than truth, and media vans camping outside the federal courthouse. The headlines wrote themselves. Tech CEO accused of selling secrets. Vostek founder linked to foreign intelligence. American success story becomes national security nightmare. Connor watched it all from the shadows, his jaw clenched tight enough to crack teeth. Webb had played his hand perfectly, using fabricated evidence and classified protocols that made defending Elena nearly impossible. Financial records showing suspicious transfers that Connor knew were forged. Communications logs that painted Elena as a traitor when she was actually a victim. But Webb had made one mistake. He'd underestimated the man he'd tried to kill 5 years ago in the Syrian desert. Connor's investigation had uncovered the truth buried beneath layers of classified operations and shell companies. Webb hadn't just sabotaged Fiancé Squadron. He'd been systematically eliminating LGBTQ service members for years, using combat missions to hide murders motivated by bigotry and fear. David and Marcus had discovered his scheme, which is why they'd had to die. The evidence was all there, hidden in encrypted communications between Webb and defense contractors who specialize in surveillance technology targeting minority communities. The same technology he was trying to steal from Elena, rebranded as counterterrorism tools, but designed to hunt the very people Webb considered threats to military purity. Elena's trial was set to begin in 48 hours. Connor had a choice. He could expose Webb's crimes, but doing so would reveal classified operations that could compromise national security and land Connor in federal prison for the rest of his life. Or he could stay silent and watch Elena pay for Webb's sins in his apartment. Connor held David's engagement ring and stared at Marcus's photograph. What would they want him to do? Save himself, or save an innocent woman who carried their legacy forward? He already knew the answer. Some promises are more important than self-preservation. Connor began uploading files to secure servers, preparing evidence packages that would go public if anything happened to him, financial records proving Webb's corruption, audio recordings of Webb admitting to eliminating the gay problem in military ranks, communication logs showing how Phoenix Squadron had been deliberately led into an ambush. But the most damaging evidence was something Webb never knew existed: Marcus's helmet camera from that final mission, which Connor had recovered from the wreckage. The recording that showed Webb's deliberate sabotage, his communications with enemy forces, his satisfaction as American soldiers died for his personal vendetta. Connor made one final call, uploading everything to a live streaming platform with a timer set for Elena's trial date. If Webb wanted to destroy them both, he'd have to do it in front of the entire world. Justice doesn't always wear a badge or carry a gavel. Sometimes it comes from someone who's lost everything and decides that truth matters more than safety. The federal courthouse in Chicago had never seen anything like it. What began as a routine treason trial exploded into a live-streamed revelation that brought down one of the Pentagon's most decorated colonels and exposed decades of systematic persecution. Connor Blake stood at the back of the courtroom, no longer hiding behind maintenance uniforms or false identities. The evidence he'd spent years collecting was now broadcasting to millions of viewers as Webb's carefully constructed lies crumbled in real time. The helmet camera footage from Marcus Rodriguez's final mission played on every screen in America. Webb's voice, clear as daylight, coordinating with enemy forces to ensure Phoenix Squadron walked into an ambush. His satisfaction as the building exploded, taking Marcus and David with it. All charges against Elena Rodriguez are hereby dismissed. Judge Patricia Hendricks announced as FBI agents surrounded Webb's table. And Colonel Webb, you are under arrest for treason, conspiracy to commit murder, and violation of civil rights under federal hate crime statutes. Elena walked out of that courthouse a free woman, but the real victory came 6 months later when Congress passed the Marcus Rodriguez Military Equality Act, strengthening protections for LGBTQ service members and establishing an oversight committee to investigate discrimination in the ranks. 1 year after the trial, Elena and Connor stood in a converted warehouse in Chicago's West Loop, watching workers hang a sign above the entrance: Marcus Rodriguez David Chen Foundation for LGBTQ Veterans. The space would house legal aid offices, mental health counselors, job training programs, and transitional housing for veterans who'd been discharged or discriminated against because of their identity. Marcus would have loved this, Elena said, watching teenagers arrive for the Foundation's youth mentorship program. Connor nodded, his hand unconsciously touching his jacket pocket where David's engagement ring once lived. He'd finally found the courage to place it at the Vietnam Veterans Memorial, alongside a letter explaining that love doesn't end with death. It transforms into something larger than itself. I think they both would have, Connor replied. Marcus always said the best way to honor the dead is to fight for the living. Elena took his hand, understanding that some connections transcend loss, that some promises keep giving meaning after the people who made them are gone. They'd built something beautiful from the ashes of tragedy, a legacy that would protect others from the hatred that had tried to destroy them. Webb was sentenced to life in federal prison, his military honors stripped, his conspiracy exposed to a world that finally understood the true cost of prejudice disguised as patriotism. The Foundation's first legal victory came when they helped a transgender veteran receive full benefits after years of discrimination. Connor began speaking at military academies, sharing Marcus and David's story, teaching young officers that strength comes from protecting those who seem different, not destroying them. Elena expanded Vostek's AI research to include bias detection systems that would prevent technology from being weaponized against minority communities. Their love story wasn't the one either of them had planned, but it was the one Marcus and David had made possible through their sacrifice. Two broken people, healed by purpose, choosing to honor the past by building a future where love conquers fear. Have you ever discovered that your greatest loss led to your most important mission? Sometimes the people we lose become the foundation for the lives we're meant to build. Share this story if you believe that courage is contagious, that justice delayed is not justice denied, and that love always finds a way to win. Subscribe to Heart Stories for more tales of ordinary people doing extraordinary things, because everyone deserves to know that their story matters, their love is valid, and their courage can change the world.